Welcome into the latest edition of Extra Time. Frank Leboeuf and Craig Burley with us. Craig, the first question follows on from yesterday's edition, which was talking about if you'd ever worn a kilt. This person asked about this outfit you were wearing. Where was this?
This was the Stade de France in '98, ahead of the opening game against Brazil. It was decided that we would wear kilts, not by us, but by our management. And I think in that photo we were out trying to see friends and family in the crowd, and then one of them was with Paul Lambert and Scott Gemmell, teammates of mine Paul from Celtic. So yeah, that was, and I can tell you it was very hot, and those kilts are really heavy.
Oh no, Frank, do you want to ask?
I have a question, Dan.
Go on, you ask the
of
question.
course, I have a question.
Go on.
Because I have the question that the world has at the edge of their lips. Were you wearing something underneath?
I can't remember.
Oh,
Oh, that's ugly.
oh, ugly and sweaty. Ugh. Right. What's the most? This is a good question, actually. What's the most distracting thing a fan did or said while you were playing? Craig, I can only imagine the things that were said to you.
Well, as you know, I did tell you about one Chelsea fan. I wasn't playing at the time, but he did say to me that he hoped I died just before the game, which was really nice. So that happened. When I signed for Celtic from Chelsea, when Frank kicked me out a year after he arrived, it was my second game for Celtic. And I've told you this before, Dan. I went over. We were losing at home to Dunfermline. It was the year we won the league, but we lost the first two games. And a fan shouted, "Why don't you bleep off back to Chelsea? You bleep, bleep, bleep." So I've had loads, mate.
Lovely.
I've had loads.
Craig, I always enjoy the story that you tell of the blind supporters who would go and watch Celtic and have commentary and would still abuse you. You were like wondering what they were saying in their ear.
Well, it was Tosh McKinley, my teammate at Celtic. Tosh had a great sense of humour, but he came in one game and Tosh was a left back, beautiful left foot, and he'd be running up and down this wing. And I think there was a section for the blind just behind the dugout, or the technical area as you call it now. And for those people, they obviously had somebody there who was giving them a commentary through their headsets and stuff. And Tosh came in at half time and I said, I don't know what that guy's commentating on, but those blind people are not half giving me stick every time I run up and down the left-hand side. Which is quite funny.
Those are your own fans as well. Frank, what about you?
Yeah.
Definitely FA Cup game. I don't remember who was in charge. It was Gullit or Vialli at the time, but decided to rest me because we had an important game in the weekend, so I was substitute and I went to warm up. And it was, where in England, north of England, where you have the theme parks. I forgot the name of the
Blackpool.
City. Maybe you
Blackpool,
exactly.
I played
Yes.
in the game. It was a cup game, Frank.
Yeah. So I was substitute and I went to warm up, and the little kid asked me to sign his. The little ball that you put up, because
a balloon?
Because of the air you put inside a balloon. Thank you. And so he asked me to sign the balloon. And so I signed the balloon, best wishes. I said, "What's your name?" I remember. So I put his name and I signed. And he took a needle and blew it up. And everybody was laughing. And I said, "Well, why did you do that to me?" He said, "I'm a Blackpool fan. Get out of here." That was, I didn't sleep at night.
I've heard, honestly, Dan, I couldn't. Well, Frank's probably got 1,000 stories, but honestly, I couldn't repeat what I've heard. And most of it, it happens in the warm-up because the stadium's not quite full, and so therefore you can hear more of the comments. And when you're running side to side to sort of warm up, you get near the edge of the pitch, near the stand, and I can tell you some of the comments, particularly in away games, mostly, are unrepeatable.
Just speaking on that, now I spoke to Stephen Casey about this during the show. There was the Oswald player who missed a penalty, and I know both of you took penalties, so I just want to get your take on it. That basically he said he missed because just as he was about to kick it, an opposition player shouted, "He always goes to the left." And because there was no crowd, he heard it clearly and then mucked up the kick. Can you empathise, Craig, with him at all? Is that just an excuse?
No, because I
Well,
don't know
for me-
about Frank, but I sometimes change my mind just before the strike, because sometimes a goalkeeper moves. Something might happen. It just triggers just a split second. I mean, a millisecond change in your mind, and if you can adjust your foot, you can do that. So I do empathise with them, because you would hear that kind of thing, and it screws with your mind just for that split second.
Frank?
Yeah, I agree. It can be disturbing, and but I was doing like Craig. Well, I was choosing a side, but I was always following the movement of the goalkeeper if the goalkeeper was moving, and sometimes there is kind of a music when he goes to the left too quick, too early. So it means he's going to go to the right, or he's going to go left, right, left, depending on the music and my run. And so I was able to change it as well. But I never heard anything like that. But I guess it would have disturbed me at some point, yeah.
Frank, should Arsenal offer a contract to Thiago Silva, or is he past his peak to play in the Premier League?
Well, he's definitely a fantastic player. Well, we were talking about the character, and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer wants a real character. He's been criticized a lot in Paris Saint-Germain, and also after the 2014 about the non-character, that the guy is crying very easily, and so it's why maybe Paris Saint-Germain didn't win the Champions League, that he didn't play the first leg in Barcelona, then he was playing for the remontada. So he's been criticized a lot, and I've never been very nice to him, because I think, for example, Marquinhos is stronger mentally than him, but he's definitely a fantastic player. He's not done yet. He's still in a good shape, and he will fit. He will fit in many clubs in the Premier League for sure.
Okay, I'm not sure any of you are guilty of this, but tell us one player you completely wrote off, but turned themselves around and made you eat your words. If Stevie was here, he'd remind you that I said that Harry Kane was a one-season wonder. That didn't quite work out. Craig, have you ever been guilty or caught out? I'm trying to think when we've done the show. I don't think there's anyone in particular that you've had a go at.
I don't think I'm completely right off a player. Not off the top of my head. I don't think so.
No.
Is the answer. I mean, maybe obviously there's been plenty of stick flying around, but I don't know if I've written a player off. I don't know.
Stevie obviously right about Sergio Ramos continuously. Frank, anyone that you didn't rate and then was like, wow?
Well, lately I've been pretty harsh on Jadon Sancho, saying that he should be more mature, but Mr. Xhaka Islam putting me back on my track, so I even apologize for that. But yeah, no, not too many people surprise me in a good way when I've been harsh to them. No, nobody to mention. Sorry.
Frank, do you remember a moment where you were very emotional? Your most emotional moment on the field?
It was that FA Cup game that we played against Liverpool at home at Stamford Bridge. We were losing 2-0 half time. Then Mark Hughes came on, and we finally won 4-2. And that it was raining. It was a typical, because the grass wasn't very good, typical English game. And I really felt that I was living kind of my biggest nightmare, being in a very hard game with no possibility to play good football, but in a war and in a way that you can be successful. And I think that I had tears in my eyes at the end of the game, because I was so absolutely fantastic as the pressure, the feeling that we had on the field.
Like the perfect storm. Craig, for you?
Well, not emotional in the sense that you would start crying, but I think a sense of relief surrounded some goals. But I think the game that I felt a sense of relief just for a victory was the FA Cup semi-final that Frank and I both played in against Wimbledon at Highbury. And primarily because I had made such a big mistake the year before in the semi-final against Man United at Villa Park, that I felt an enormous pressure going into that game, that that I just couldn't afford to make any mistakes. I didn't want to let my teammates down. I didn't want to let the fans down. I didn't want to let myself down. So the feeling of emotion, particularly after Wisey shouted 5 minutes before the game, "No effing back passes today, Burley." So that put me under more pressure. And I think when we finished that game and we'd won, and Gianfranco had scored that fantastic goal just to finish it off, we were in the final. It was a blazing hot day, as Frank will remember. Beautiful day, great atmosphere at Highbury, and it was just a sense of sort of emotional release at the end of it that I got through that 90 minutes unscathed, unlike the year before. So yeah, big pressure, you know. You don't realise when you're playing these games, nobody wants to let their teammate down. That's the big thing. And when we've talked on the show about Solskjaer and the bad apples and all that, nobody wants to let their teammate down, and that was never been more for me than that game at Highbury.
Frank,
yeah, very important, Dan. Sorry, Dan. It's very important what he just said about not letting down his teammates. Where that's what I thought when I was playing the final of the World Cup in '98, where you reach the final but you don't play a lot, and suddenly you have the chance to play in the final, and you don't want to let your teammates down because you're going to make a mistake, and that's the biggest pressure that you put to yourself. That's maybe wrong, but when you have a character like Craig and I had, and you just want to win stuff, that's the pressure that you need to maybe be performant.
Final question. We heard last week Frank do it. Now, can Craig do a French accent, as Frank did a Scottish one last week?
All right. Help me, Frank.
Bonjour, comment ça va?
Yeah, but
hello, comment ça va?
Yeah, he's got to do it
in English. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
just sound like Frank.
Hamburger. I need to have some hamburger.
Hey, let me think. Ooh, can I have a bottle of beer? I don't know. What would we are frogs. Frog's legs.
Frog legs.
Dos San Miguel, por favor.
That's Spanish.
I know that.
That's Spanish.
Oh my God, I can't believe you did
I'm getting
that.
me some pasta and putting me a fries on top, like McManaman. That's Italian.
Oh.
That's so Scottish. There's nothing to do with that.
I know.
Oh my God, I can't believe you did that.
I'm going to
Craig.
learn French.
Goodness me, you're lighting up in your old age. That is it. Thank you very much to Craig and Frank. Thank you as always for your tweets. We'll be back tomorrow for more. Au revoir. Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN Plus.